We are now in the final 5 hours of the countdown for the launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, carrying the tethered satellite and the European retrievable carrier. The countdown is being controlled from firing room 3 of the Launch Control Center, and we are on schedule for a liftoff at 9:56 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. The astronauts are now entering the dining room at the crew quarters in the operations and checkout building for breakfast. Payload specialist Franco Malerba at the end of the table. Mission specialist Claude Nicollier. Our pilot for the mission, Andrew Allen. The mission commander, Lauren Schreiber. Mission specialist Jeff Hoffman. Mission specialist Marcia Ivins. And mission specialist Franklin Chang-Díaz. After breakfast, they'll go toward the suit-up room to begin their activities.
Here you see Franklin Chang-Díaz. Commander Lauren Schreiber was shown just a few minutes ago. Mission Specialist Jeffrey Hoffman shown here.
Payload Specialist Franco Malerba. Marcia Ivins, the flight engineer, will be backing up Commander Lauren Schreiber and Andrew Allen during ascent and entry. Claude Nicollier is primed for working the arm on EURECA deploy. Pilot Andrew Allen. Orbiter operations during the blue team activities. And he'll be assisting Commander Lauren Schreiber during the rendezvous and proximity operations. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 56 minutes and counting. The crew now has emerged from their suit-up activities. And they are headed for the elevator on the 4th floor of the operations and checkout building where the astronaut quarters are located. Down to the 1st floor and awaiting employees to wish them well. Lauren Schreiber, Andrew Allen, Jeff Hoffman, Franco Malerba, Marcia Ivins, Claude Nicollier, and Franklin Chang-Díaz. Aerial view of Pad 39B and the Space Shuttle Atlantis. This is the 12th flight of Atlantis, which was delivered to KSC in April 1985. This is the 49th flight of the Space Shuttle program, our 24th since return to flight. We'll continue to watch as the crew enters the orbiter. Meanwhile, here in firing room 3, the launch team is pressing on with their activities. We're still not working any problems. Crew arrived at the Cape on Tuesday evening about 9:15, and since their arrival, Lauren Schreiber and Andrew Allen had been flying the shuttle training aircraft to hone their landing skills. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 1 hour, 54 minutes, 7 seconds, and counting. Mission specialist Marcia Ivins now crawling aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis.
TLS go for OAA retract.
NTD Flight 212, SPCs are on board.
Copy, SPC.
Atlantis now being powered by the onboard fuel cells. Gimbaling of the main engines is in work, and the gaseous nitrogen purge of the main engines is being terminated.
Flight crew, close and lock your visors. Initiate O2, low. Time to fly.
T-minus 2 minutes.
Roger that, thank you.
Orbiter body flap and speed brake are in the launch position. Sound suppression water system has started. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Main engine ignition. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission for new utility in space.
Houston's now controlling. Atlantis is rolling on course.
Roll program.
Roger, roll, Atlantis. Full maneuvers complete, placing Atlantis and crew on the proper heading. Engines at full throttle. Engines are throttling back now, helping to ease Atlantis through the dense lower altitudes as it continues to accelerate very rapidly. Engine throttles now at 82%. Atlantis is already traveling over 650 miles per hour. All systems are performing well.
Atlantis check hot mic.
Engines are throttling back further now to 67%. And all 3 main engines are throttling back up. 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Atlantis, go at throttle up.
Go at throttle up.
All engines are now running at full throttle and all systems are performing well. Altitude now 63,000 feet. Atlantis is traveling over 1,000 miles per hour. Over the next 60 seconds, as Atlantis continues to climb at a relatively steep angle, the vehicle's rate of acceleration will virtually triple. Solid rocket boosters, each providing up to about 3 1/3 million pounds of thrust, will burn out and separate at about 2 minutes 4 seconds. Time now 1 minute 47 seconds. Altitude 107,000 feet. All systems performing well. Booster chamber pressure is tailing off. With a clean separation, Atlantis is now flying free of the solids and under the power of its own main engines. Second stage guidance is now controlling the vehicle. Altitude 173,000 feet. Downrange distance now 37 nautical miles. Atlantis is now traveling over 2,800 miles an hour.
This is Mission Control, Houston. This television is live from Atlantis from a camera mounted on the end of the robot arm, now being operated by Mission Specialist Claude Nicollier.
Okay, my question is that I don't think there's anything that would prevent us from pressing on today.
Flight of fail.
Go ahead.
The EPS power-up is highly desired to be in dark, and that's after grapple, and we're just a little bit before sunset, so we just want to make sure they don't get too far ahead.
Well, there's no problem getting grappled early.
No, sir, but if they keep pressing through the procedure at this speed, we just want to make sure they're in darkness before they hit that EPS power-up.
You betcha. You betcha.
And that's why we don't have a grapple call. Our call is go for EPS power-up.
This is Mission Control, Houston. This view is from a television camera at the end of Atlantis' mechanical arm as it zeroes in on the fixture, specially designed fixture on the European Retrievable carrier to grab it and lock on.
Orbit 2 operators, when you have completed your handover to the oncoming Orbit 3 team, you're released. Our on-console time tomorrow, Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Everybody did a real fine job. So when you have completed your handover, you are released. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Atlantis, Houston, congratulations on a great grapple. You have a go for TCU deactivation and EPS power-up. And we're going to hand over now to Orbit 3, and you'll be speaking to Sam, and we wish you a great deploy today.
Claude Nicollier aboard Atlantis, now slowly raising the European Retrievable carrier out of the aft portion of the payload bay. EURECA weighs in at about 9,700 pounds and has about 2,600 pounds of payload capability. That is all of the experiments that are mounted on the spacecraft. This is the first mission of EURECA. Its primary mission on this flight is devoted to experimentation in the fields of material and life sciences and also radiobiology. There's 15 experiments that are mounted on this platform, and once it's released by Atlantis, it will remain in orbit for about 6 to 9 months.
Okay, Capcom, let them know we see you.
Atlantis, we're in low hover.
Atlantis, Houston, Roger, we've been watching down here. It looks great. A couple items for you. DHS activation is complete, and now that you're clear, you have a go for course rates as well.
Okay. That's affirmative.
Atlantis, Houston.
Go ahead.
Roger, we would like you to go ahead and maneuver to the intermediate position and see if we still have the same problems.
Okay.
solar array deployment aboard the European Retrievable carrier takes about 5 minutes. Each solar array on EURECA consists of 5 rigid panels, each one used to charge the onboard batteries of the spacecraft and provide about 1,000 watts of continuous power to the experiments mounted on the platform.
We're about 32, 33 degrees out right now.
Okay.
The only other thing we can do is move the EURECA to see if the multipathing changes or goes away.
Well, we've been through a fair amount of rotation here.
Considering resending a command just to verify that configuration is as it should be.
Okay.
This is Mission Control. Houston, Atlantis flying high above the Pacific Ocean northwest of Australia. This on the 11th orbit of the mission. Continuing to see some intermittent data dropouts between the orbiter and the spacecraft, and the payload community's off looking at whether they can get commands in to the spacecraft in between the dropouts to command the antennas aboard EURECA to the deploy sequence. Aboard Atlantis, all 7 crew members are now awake. The red team has been awake now for a little more than an hour and a half. The red team of Lauren Shriver, the commander of the mission, Marcia Ivins, Jeff Hoffman, and Franklin Chang-Díaz will be taking over for the blue team a little bit later this morning. The blue team of Andy Allen, the pilot, and Claude Nicollier is mission specialist, and Franco Malerba, payload specialist, have been on station since about 6 o'clock yesterday evening. On orbit 13, 230 miles above the Red Sea, Atlantis flies high, carrying on the end of the robot arm the European Retrievable carrier. Aboard Atlantis, mission specialist Claude Nicollier, who has prime responsibility for operations with the EURECA spacecraft, the European Retrievable carrier. His mission is to use the shuttle's robot arm to position the spacecraft for the release.
Capcom flight, go ahead and give the crew go for release, and there go to maneuver to the release attitude. Okay. Atlantis, Houston.
Flight payload, back to antenna 1, their go for maneuvering.
Copy. Okay, Andy, you have a go for release at this time. You also have a go to maneuver to the release attitude.
Now flying high above the Kennedy Space Center, from which Atlantis was launched 3 days ago.
Valley lights blinking.